even though we don't have baseball on the field, we do have some baseball news. Rob Manfred went in front of media, answered some questions, and gave an update on labor negotiations. And there was some really interesting stuff. And one thing in particular that I want to talk about that, even though it's huge news, has kind of gone under the radar. So here's Rob Manfred answering some questions on the labor negotiations and everything that has to do with Major League Baseball.
We've proposed an agreement that is better in every respect than the expired contract. For the first time in history, and despite substantial opposition by some clubs, we've agreed to institute a draft lottery to address the players' concern about clubs not competing. The players have said throughout the process that a key priority is getting young players paid more. We agree, and we actually share that goal. That's why we've proposed to increase pay to young players through significantly increased minimum salaries and by accepting the concept brought forward by the players of a bonus pool for the game's best young stars. Under our proposal on the table, every single pre-arbitration player would be better off than under the previous agreement. We've agreed to a universal designated hitter and the elimination of draft choice compensation. These changes will improve the free agent market by creating additional jobs that are often filled by veteran players and by actually eliminating the drag from compensation. We've made a meaningful proposal directly responsive to the players' longstanding concern about service time of young players. We'd like to expand the playoffs, which is good for players and for clubs. It's also good for our fans, the vast majority of whom enjoy playoff baseball. We think the new format will encourage more clubs to compete while giving more players the opportunity to participate in the postseason. In total, the proposals we've made would move the agreement decidedly in the players' direction. Where the clubs have been and remain unwilling to move is in response to player proposals that we believe will undermine the competitive balance in our game. For example, the players' insistence that we reduce revenue sharing will without question lead to less competition, not more. Changing the current agreement by taking resources from clubs with relatively limited revenue will make the game less competitive. And when you think about it, it's like asking people to take a pay cut.
So that was the commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred. A lot of stuff to digest, but the thing I wanted to talk about with Paul Chivari and Devin Tingle here on the Sports Cubicle is the designated hitter. It's a done deal. Now, there isn't a done deal on paper. There's still negotiations going on. This looks like a formality. And I know for us, we've talked about it for a long time. And I think for a lot of people in the know, this has just been a foregone conclusion. But the reason I find it interesting is between Paul Chivari, Devin Tingle, and myself, we, even though we're young in the industry, we old enough to know in the last 10 years, this would have been the biggest story, even during Super Bowl week, that the universal DH was happening, that there would be a DH for 162 games for the Chicago Cubs. And now it's in between what the real problem is in baseball, and that's revenue sharing, and that's teams tanking. Just how far we've come in the conversation of Major League Baseball, and our local baseball expert on both the Cubs, the White Sox, and of course, everything MLB, the host of the Baseball Weekend Journal, our co-host, Paul Chivari, is always all over this like a blanket. You hear what the commissioner had to say, then you hear the universal DH. Your thoughts on the universal DH being a thing, and then just in general, what Rob Manfred had to say.
Well, I think universal DH is going to happen regardless of anyone's feelings on it. Me personally, I'm not wild about it, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I remember a sweeter time. I just hate the whole argument of the game needs to be shorter. The game's continuously getting longer, and they're talking about banning a defensive shift, which would help move a game along. And now they're talking about adding more offense. I mean, you're going to get 8 more at bats now, at least a game, or 6 to 8 at bats a game, where one hitter is particularly way better than the one that used to be hitting. So I don't know how you plan on shortening baseball by talking about these things, but it's gonna happen sooner or later. And you get unification in the league now that we live in the day and age of interleague matchups, this and that. There's no longer there's no longer a separation of the leagues. There's no American League president, National League president that have to, communicate with the commissioner to get anything going anymore. It's all kind of a unilateral, umbrella that the commissioner oversees. Of course, Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred are going to say that their latest proposal is such a great proposal. And I don't remember if he said it in what we were listening to, but I was kind of reading some of the stuff that he was saying, and how, they're, everything that they've offered has been so good for the players. And the players are the ones that don't want to, they're the ones that don't want to negotiate with us. Well, that's hollow words when you talk about the fact that they've only met 4 or 5 times since December 1st. And here we are, Super Bowl week, near Valentine's Day. It's been how many weeks? It's been 10 weeks at least, and they've only met 5 times. Yeah, there's some holidays in the middle, but if they truly wanted to get this done, if they truly felt that anything was going to be compromised, including spring training, they would have had a little bit more giddy up in their pants to try and get this thing over with, maybe in January. But clearly that was never in the best interest of the league. Right from the get-go, they were finger pointing to the players when they had their first release statement when the lockout started. They never even budged in any of the proposals that the players were bringing up. The league has clearly had a lot of leverage in the past with all these collective bargaining agreements. And I think the players brought up some real, some real issues here. The game has changed so much in 20 years, and all encompassing the product on the field, the product that they're selling to the public, the way the public consumes it, the way the fans are, the way, you take in a ball game at the actual ballpark. There's so many different things. And these are some of the things that the players are trying to address, but never in there did you hear Rob Manfred talk about the, minimum wage, being brought up, and that's something that the players are really pushing for. And the idea of a lottery in the draft doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think it's going to have, I think if anything, it's going to help better teams. Maybe that's the point. They want better teams to be able to get better picks, but you pull up any year. Let's go back to like 2016 because it's enough time to develop. If you pulled up the top 10 picks in 2016, you tell me who the guys are that have played or haven't played or are going to make an impact in this league. This isn't like the NFL where you're going to find some really hot talent in the top 10, or the NBA, especially where it's very top heavy. It's very much hit or miss when it comes to making picks in baseball because you're hoping for a specific development. I mean, there's guys from 5 years ago that were drafted in the first round that have retired. Think about that. It's only been 5-6 years, and it's so. I mean, I think the league isn't necessarily there yet, but I'd like to see. I think on Friday we're going to hear the players union kind of have their counter proposal, or what they think about what the league is offering. But I think every step of the way, the league has not demonstrated that they're interested in bending over in any regards to the players. And the clock is ticking. It's like we should be talking about pitchers and catchers reporting and how happy we are about that. This very show that you're listening to, we should have been talking about that, how pitchers and catchers were going to report tomorrow. But we're not. And we don't even know when games are happening. And now we're talking about the realism of the fact that the opening day might not be in time. And if it is in time, if that's not in jeopardy, what sort of developments or practices are we going to see in between now and then, because we're running out of time? Keep in mind, this is a league that, was compromised by the pandemic, where, and look at what that did to pitchers' arms down the stretch in 2021. So, I mean, these guys have probably been working out on their own, but they haven't been in communication with their coaches or their teams. So, what sort of detriment is this going to have to player development because of this whole negotiation process? So I really got to see what this looks like on paper. I really got to see what the league thinks about this, or the players, I should say. I really need to see what the counter proposal looks like from the players. But I just think here in the middle of February, we're not as close as we think we are to it. And the only reason we would be close to it is because the league, the owners and the commissioner would actually be willing to sit down and try and hammer this thing out and put some actual effort into it.
And It's funny, though. They're going to make sure that they try to sell you for tickets. The owners are going to make sure that they're going to try to get every dollar out of the audience. And, I think my biggest...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, the ticket packages are already on sale for the White Sox. And it's like, I'm not budging on that until I know if there's a season. And in addition to that, the whole pettiness of the league takes down all of the players' information and, any news about them, all their pictures, that sort of thing. But yet you could still buy a jersey through the team.
It's ridiculous. And it's timing. Yeah. And it's upsetting. And, Paulie, make sure if you are a baseball fan, if you love the inside of that sport, make sure you're following Paulie every single weekend on the Baseball Weekend Journal. He puts out some really awesome detail. And Devin, I'm going to throw it to you because, again, you love this sport and it frustrates you. But what frustrates me, it's a sport that people keep trying to mess with. Stop trying to speed it up, make it longer. If you're trying to make adjustments to make it better, but stop trying to do this weird thing that fans only have attention span for 4 hours. I'm about to go see a Batman movie for 3 hours. I'm going to sit in a seat for 3 hours. You want to know how you get people in your game? Make your team good. Devin, your thoughts?
First, I want to say I think it's very funny that Rob Manfred's like, we need to do more, for younger players to make more money, but we're going to put the DH in for older players to create more jobs. It's like, so what, are we going to expand the rosters to like 40-man all year? No, you can't do it that way. But again here, this isn't anything new in the world of sports here. I mean, if you guys remember when there was the hockey lockout a few years ago, what did they do? They made shootouts way more common because, people want to see more goals come in. And they've been trying to speed this up here. And yeah, it's a different crowd, Mercado. A lot of people that'll see that 3-hour Batman movie, though, they're not going to go see a 4-hour baseball game. Guys like you, me, and, not Paul. We're a little bit different. We're willing to do that here. But, they've been trying to do this with sports for years, trying to speed it up, trying to make it more exciting. They're putting football games on Nickelodeon because the younger fan base in the NFL is dog doo-doo. They've been trying to just change something here. So we keep saying, the game, to us, the game isn't broke, don't fix it. But here's the thing, guys. If there's no one to watch this after us, we're kind of done. The sports are kind of done here. I don't think it's going to happen. I think there will be always some sort of, fan base for sports in general here. We may have see some teams move around. And I agree with Mercado. If you put out a good team here, unless you're the Chicago Cubs, then you can be dog crap for years and still sell out a stadium. I disagree. But again, this is all very much – I'm not too surprised here, honestly. And I will be 100% honest. I don't think we're going to get a season this year. I'm with Paul. We should definitely be talking spring training, who looks good, who looks not. We just spent a whole episode on that, but I don't think we're going to, I don't think we're going to get a season this year. It's like, we're in a league where the minimum salary or the average salary is $1 million here. And we got owners, trying to be like, we want to get more money into people's way. We want to give young guys hope. We want to give old guys hope. We want the fans to be happy. Well, there's not going to be a season here. And find one baseball fan who's like, you know what? I'm glad there's no season this year. You will not find that. But again, they're selling their jerseys. MLB The Show, you can pre-order on their website now. Even some minor league guys are making deals here. So it's like, who is suffering right now? The players and the fans. That's it. Again, like we talked about earlier, the big rich owners, this doesn't affect them too much. They're like, we're not going to sell tickets here. You're still getting a profit somehow, some way. Don't feed me that BS.
Let us know your thoughts. It's a frustrating situation, but what did you think about what the commissioner had to say? What do you think the players' response is going to be? We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. It's Devin Tingle. It's Paul Chivari. I'm Mike Mercado.